But by the time we got to England, it was their national conference. And Brother Carter let me speak at night as an evangelist because I had been with him all this time. And Brother Wigglesworth was the day speaker, a day teacher. He was teaching. And so he heard me the first night and came around after I got through and said, "Young man, you need to come see me." Well, I says, "I don't doubt it. I'd like to do that," because I'd heard about him all my life, you see. And he said, "You're welcome to come." I said, "When?" He says, "You can come anytime and as often as you want to." I said, now tell me the truth now, because I've heard so much about you in Australia and in the United States and other countries where you've held, New Zealand, where you held these great crusades and had thousands of people. Now, I said, "Be sure." Oh, he says, "I'm sure." He says, "I like you." I said, "Well, that's mighty nice of you," because he was around 80, you see, and I was around 25. So that was mighty nice of him. So as soon as that conference was over the next week, I landed at his front door. And he told me, he said, "Now don't write a call or anything, just come." He says, "Everything's all right." His wife had already passed away, and his daughter was the one who took care of him and cooked for him and cleaned up the house and so forth. She was the wife of James Salter, a missionary to Africa. And so he would permit her to stay with the father, and he'd come home to her to see her, and they got along fine. But when I arrived at his front door, they had door knockers those days. And you'd hit it, and there was two pieces of metal hitting together. And so here he came to the door. He looked like a Philadelphia lawyer. Brother, he was trim. Even though he was in his early 80s, man, I tell you, he was trim. And so he looked at me, and he said, "What you got under your arm?" That meant, "What do you have under your arm?" I said, "Well, I have an umbrella here, have a newspaper here." He says, "You can't bring that paper into my house." He said, "I don't permit lies in my house." He says, "It's full of lies." He said, "Hitler," he couldn't pronounce his H's. He said, "Hitler and Mussolini will both be in hell soon, and I don't want anything about them in my house." I just bought the paper. I hadn't read a word of it yet, so I was stuck it in the bushes. And I said, "Anything else, sir?" He said, "Come on in." So I came in. And in that first session, they served me lunch there. I arrived about 10 o'clock in the morning and stayed till about 2 or 2:30. Went down and caught a train to where I was going to preach that night. And so we just liked each other. His stories were hilarious, you know, of how people got healed and blessed. And you want to hear one of them? In San Francisco, in the great Glad Tidings Tabernacle, Dr. Craig was a pastor there, and Wigglesworth was conducting this great revival meeting. And he said to me, he said, on a Sunday afternoon, the place was jammed and packed with people. And said, I told those that were very sick, that were not even expected to live, to come on, form a row on the platform. I'd give them some special attention, lay hands on them. And he said, I went to pray for 2 or 3, and a doctor was sitting by a man, and I said, "What's up?" That's what's wrong with you. And he was a Yorkshire man. He didn't speak London English. And said, "What's up?" And the doctor spoke up for him and said he's dying of cancer. Says, we've just brought him here in a very faint hope that you might be able to bless him. And he said, where's the cancer? He said, in his belly. Brother, he wound up like a baseball player and whacked that man in the belly with his fist. And his hands dropped down beside the little hospital cot. And the doctor screamed, my God, you've killed him. You've killed him. We're going to sue you. And Wigglesworth said, I didn't stop. I just said, shoot up to the doctor. And he went on down the line praying for the people. And about 10 minutes down the line, here came this man. And he had on a hospital coat that has no back to it, you know. His behind was hanging out. And before all those thousands of people, here he came running down the line, yelling, I'm healed. I'm healed. I have no pain. The swelling has gone, and I'm healed by the power of Jesus. And the doctor was right behind him saying, he's healed. He's healed. He's healed. And so Smith Wigglesworth would tell me a story like that and clap his hands. And he was so happy that somebody had been blessed. And I was too. With all my heart, I sought for the miraculous power of God. I wanted to see his power. And anyone that had the power of God in their lives, I wanted to be as close to them as I could. So about every 10 days for 2 years, I went to see him. And what a beautiful time we had together.